Hello, everyone. So basically, I was speaking about Plato, his Republic, his special love. I'm a bit sarcastic over here. Special love for the poets. Now we are going to see the views of Aristotle, who was the uh, disciple of Plato, and since he was very well accustomed with the views of his teacher, Aristotle also developed his own taste. And in the end, he challenges various notions, various theories as given by the Plato. So basically, criticism is something where the teacher tries to develop the critical abilities of the students. It does not mean believing or accepting anything in the classroom lecture. You can always rise up and say, "Sir, this is my view, and I think you are wrong in this aspect." Of course, you cannot bully the teacher. You have no bloody right to bully the teacher. Come up with a gun or something like that, as it happens in US or something like that. Come up with reason, logical reasoning or something. If your views are backed up by logical reasoning, of course, you can come up with your own school of thoughts. So basically, this is Aristotle challenging the views of uh, Plato about the concept of poets and the poetry. And according to him, poets are not that bad. Poetry is not such a bad thing that it should be banished from the republic. Somewhat like that. So basically, he came up with this uh, book known as Poetics. Poetics is basically a defense of poetry. And in that particular thing, he praises poetry. He makes some kind of comparison between art that is poetry, and history. And also, he comes up with various qualities of a tragedy. So that's the basic outline for this lecture. Let us see. A visual presentation is always needed. Hello, Aristotle. So this is the guy for the day. This is our Aristotle. Hi, how are you? So you can see, you can see him. So basically, that's the bust of Aristotle. Is this the real Aristotle? No. Is this a form? Is this an ideal? I spoke about cape theory. I spoke about the form and ideal. It is up to you. Do you think it's a mere copy? It's an imitation? Let us proceed. So basically, he wrote this particular book known as Poetics. It's nearly 4th century BC. BC here applies before Christ. Now, let us see what do we have in Poetics. Uh, these are the concepts which comes up while reading Aristotle's Poetics. First one is mimesis, which is another version of imitation, catharsis, and hamartia. So, according to this particular mm, great philosopher, poetry is not that bad, and he spoke like a spoke like a scientist within in a scientific debate. He was very scientific in his approach, and this guy was from Macedonia, yeah, the famous place where Alexander used to live, and he got an offer to teach Alexander also. So mimesis is basically a medium of imitation. It's not a mere or cheap copy. It's basically a representation, not representation. So there is REPERESENTATION, representation, and representation. And there is a hyphen, presentation. That's it. So basically, poets, they try to represent the actual nature or something like that. So according to it, is an poetry for Aristotle is a basically idealized representation of the human action, not a cheap copy according to Plato. That is his theory of imitation. And apart from that, he tried to discuss tragedy in a great detail. So according to him, there are two types of poetry. So tragedy, poetry, these are intertwined, something like that. Don't get confused. If someone is writing satire in the coming age, in the advancement of the age of literature, that person is going to write comedy, which belongs to the low level. And if some person is writing some serious thing, death of the people, or the elegy, that person is going to write tragedy in the end. So basically, he makes uh, uh, two categories. One is tragedy, one is comedy. So according to him, satire, comedy, this belongs to the lower level. and tragedy belongs to the highest level, which I don't agree completely. Of course, satire, I guess, is the most intelligent way of exposing the truth. Of course, 1984 by George Orwell is the greatest satire, I guess so. But again, it's not a tragedy or something like that. It's a dystopia, and the concept of novel came much later. Okay, so basically, what is tragedy? Tragedy is something which invokes fear, which invokes pity. So basically, if you see, Othello, the Moor of Venice, in the end, Desdemona is killed by this guy Othello out of jealousy or something like that. In the end, you feel bad for Desdemona, and more importantly, you feel bad for Othello because he had a loving wife, but sadly, his love was not based on experience or reason. His love was based on mutual attraction, physical beauty. He was not a matured person from this point of view. So you feel bad for that. And you feel bad for King Lear also because, in the end, he sided with people who only loved him or showed affection, faked the affection for the property, for the money. So basically, tragedy is about an action, while poetry is a narrative or something like that, prose narrative. Tragedy is about the action. You cannot simply narrate. You have to show a character who is doing some kind of performing some kind of action. So basically, and it's a conflict between good and evil, and it has got a bit of cosmic implication. The character should be of noble birth, and one of the most important feature in a tragedy is mythos. Mythos is also known as the plot, and there should be three unities in the mythos: unity of time, place, and action. And so time is basically it should be completed within 24 hours, and the unity of place is one action should not take place in Navi Mumbai, one action should not take place in Ranchi, one action should not take place in New Orleans or London. It should be at a particular place. So basically, in the particular stage, there is a unity of place, unity of action, time, place, and action. In action, there should be rising action, there should be falling action. That's a different area of discussion. So those are the things. Apart from the plot, that is the mythos, he concentrated on another thing which is known as character. Now, the character should be of novel birth. It should not be any Tom, Dick, and Harry who is living, who should have a novel birth. For example, if you consider the character of Oedipus Rex, it should be a novel birth, and he should not be free from vices or something like that. Maybe there should be some kind of error in judgment. What is error in judgment? That is very uh, important in the concept of uh, tragedy. That is hamartia. Hamartia is basically the error in judgment. So in the famous book, the demystified approach from classical to contemporary theory, I guess it's a Joseph Chandra K. Antony and also in Peter Barry. They explains that hamartia is a basically grave error of judgment or missing the mark, and it is not acrasia, which is doing what you know to be wrong or something like that. A spectrum of events, uh, uh, a spectrum of events which flow from single flaw or mistake, leading to denouement. By the time the hero uh, experience that a flaw is going on anagnorisis, his fatal error has accelerated to such a point that you cannot turn back, you cannot go back. So that is the beauty of tragedy. And in the end of the tragedy, the character, the audience like us or the readers like us, they always get rid of excess emotion. For example, pity and fear. Fear. That's it. That is known as catharsis. Are you getting it? So basically, I have spoken about acrasia, denouement, three unities, and also anagnorisis. Now, catharsis. So basically, tragedy is like a purgative pill. So when you have excess of something taken inside your stomach, and you have this vomiting action. Vomit. If you think vomiting is a bad, of course it's a bad thing. But in the end, the body gets rid of excessive, poisonous thing, which is not required for the body. In the end, when you vomit or something like that, you feel good. So that's the That's the beauty of tragedy. You get rid of excessive emotion. It's like a purgative pill. That is the beauty of tragedy. And of course, apart from that, yeah, that's the basic thing about tragedy that has been spoken by this particular guy, Aristotle. And Plato has also said that, poetry. I'm going back to poetry right now. Plato has also said that, the poetry leads to sensual pleasure, which is bad. But according to Aristotle, even sensual pleasure is a part of life. If there is no sensual or bodily pleasure, it won't awaken your mind. So basically, Plato was a very idealist person, and this guy Aristotle was like, he was much more adaptive. The Origin of Species, much later Charles Darwin said adaptation is an important part. He was much more adaptive. He gives equal importance to mind and body. So sensual pleasures are important. So, and these sensual pleasures, because when you get rid of those excessive emotions or something like that, you get rid of, so you become much more stable from the point of view of emotions, from the point of view of psychology, and most importantly, you become much more stable from the point of view of politics. So that's the beauty of tragedy, explained by Aristotle. And he has given a beautiful definition of a tragedy. Yes, it's a imitation of action. Again, what kind of imitation? I've already spoken. It should be serious, complete, and it should contain certain magnitude. Matlab, you are going to a place, somebody pushes you from behind, you fall down. No, that is not a tragedy. You go to the school, you then go to the college, and you get married, and sometimes and someday you die. No, that's not. There should be certain kind of action which could be universally recognizable, people can connect to it universally, and yes, in the end, you feel very bad. You feel, kash aisa nahi hota, or something like that. It shouldn't have happened like that. Now you have seen this famous 2019 movie Joker. So we have seen Joker. Is Joker a tragic hero? The question arises. So while reading comic, if you have not seen the origin story, you will say he's a bad person. He is simply trying to hurt the people. But when you see his story, he was bullied. Nobody took care of him. The situation is bad. You try to, at certain point of time, you try to connect with the person. But again, is he a tragic hero, or he is a children of the chaos? That's a different thing. So criticism is something which is supposed to make you question each and everything. That is the motto of criticism. That is the motto of literature. So that's it. That's all about, I guess, the beauty of, the tragedy or something like that. So that's it. So see you next week. Not next week, sorry. See you tomorrow. I'll give a small, it will be a smaller video on Longinus, on the Sublime, what he has said about Sublime. That's it. If you have some questions, post in the comment box. And don't, you know, message me in LinkedIn or something like that. Try to connect me on, Facebook or YouTube comment section. That will be much more easier. That's it. Thank you. Bye bye. Cool.